Also, another announcement about our book project next year is the foreword is being written by our next keynote speaker. And I am very, very humbled that she said yes. And this goes to show you that sometimes you need to dare to ask. So my podcast co-host back there, Eden Sustin, and I had Kristine on Talk Purpose and Truth podcast, and she was brilliant. And I just was like, I'm feeling like I'm supposed to ask Kristine to be the forward writer, but who knows, maybe she'll say yes or no. And we had a beautiful talk and connection, and she said yes. So, and she also said yes to coming and speaking to you all tonight. So Kristine is the New York Times bestselling author of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, many, many other books. If you look her up, she's been on Oprah. She's had a recent Lifetime movie about her life. She has Real Life Wisdom podcast, and she's also a retreat leader. Soon having a retreat in Costa Rica. So thank you, Kristine, for being here.
Hi, everyone. I know I'm standing between you and bed, so. But what an amazing night. It's always such a joy to celebrate authors, and it is an accomplishment. A lot of people feel a lot of fear around being seen in that way, sharing in a vulnerable way. In the first book that I ever wrote solo, I felt exactly the same way. I was like, who am I to write a Don't Sweat the Small Stuff book when I wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff for Women? To just understand a little bit about what I'm going to speak on, I want you to know a little bit about me and personally where I come from, how I wrote those books with my late husband. Ours was a typical overnight success story. It took 10 books in 10 years. So it was a grind in a lot of ways. It didn't happen overnight. And on the 10th book, it was Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, but Richard was a pioneer in happiness. He was the first author to ever write a book with happiness in the title. So I think that's so beautiful that you asked me to be with you in celebration tonight. So at the 10th anniversary of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and this book came out in 1997, so it's been quite a while, Richard stood in the kitchen and he said to me, you know, what's really cool is that every 10 years, there's going to be a whole new group of people sweating the small stuff. And this body of work that we've created will continue on. And he was right. At that same, probably a week later, Richard got on a flight to promote his latest book. And he died suddenly from a pulmonary embolism on that flight. It's been 18 years, so I can speak on this and say it without crying, although it feels very fresh to me because it's actually going to be the 18th anniversary in about 2 weeks. So he had invited me very beautifully to write with him in this series. I wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff in Love with him, and then after that he asked me to write Don't Sweat the Small Stuff for Women. Now, I didn't want to write that book because I didn't see how two authors were going to do a household, raising family and all of that in the same house. And he said, well, that's okay because I want to stay home and you can go on book tour. So I wrote that book and it became a New York Times bestseller, and I was terrified. I was really terrified to come out in the public that way. But I found that I was a writer. Well, I put that book away, and then after he passed away suddenly, I started writing, and I filled up those early morning hours that we would strategize about parenting, that we would talk about book titles, that we would talk about chapters for books. And I filled up those early morning hours by writing, by really tuning into my feelings and my heart and my grief. Because when you've gone through that kind of loss, the loss of a life partner that you absolutely love, it's an unimaginable, unthinkable loss. And, you think about how happy you were, and you wonder, am I ever going to return to joy again? Because you don't know the answer to that when you're going through that kind of grief. You have no idea what your path is going to be back to joy. but something starts to happen, and it happened for me, and I became really so heartbroken that I opened up, and I had two choices. I could choose life, or I could choose to be bitter and unhappy and miserable. And all that kept me going was just to continue to choose life, choose every day to live. And whatever I could do to live, I did. And amidst that, I grieved. And I think it's not unlike having an illness, that you're told suddenly you have an illness, and you have to carve out time to heal. You have to carve out time to take care of yourself. Grieving is the same way. We don't just get over the loss of a life partner, the loss of a parent, the loss of the unimaginable loss of a child. You don't get over it in a day. It takes time. And you've got to do the thing that we all have to do, and that is become available to heal. And I never say that grief is an enemy, because to me, grief came to awaken me, grief came to heal me, and then grief left one day. One of the beautiful things about my journey and my story has been to carry on for Richard, to carry his legacy forward while establishing my own, to see in his grandchildren, which I now have 5, his beautiful eyes and his smile, and just see his athletic ability and all of the things that he brought to the world as these beautiful children take form and become, young adults. Our oldest grandson is now 15. And I'm here tonight because I have a new book coming out, and I thought, what a beautiful thing to celebrate your book coming out with our new book coming out, and it's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff Every Day. So it's a compilation of 365 chapters. So we've edited them down to 1 page. And what I love about this book is it really speaks to everything that everyone talked about tonight. But the main thing is that life is like a sport, and you have to practice it the way you want to live it. And that takes daily inspiration and daily practice. But gosh, what else are we going to do? I mean, don't you want to be in charge of your life? You want to decide when you wake up, how do you want your day to be? And you know what? You get to. Even in grief and loss. You don't get to decide that you're going to grieve. You don't get to decide necessarily what triggers your grief, but you get to decide that you're going to go through the process. And I'm here to show you and tell you that you go through the process, and there is a day that you wake up and it's done. And there's never a time where I don't miss Richard. There's never a moment or a day that I don't wake up and think about him, but I'm not in grief any longer. I have chosen my life, and it's just been an amazing life. And I feel so blessed and so grateful that I get to be here, that I get to live for not only myself, but I get to live for him too. So there's a big lesson in Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. When you are living the big stuff, you are definitely not sweating the small stuff. But I just want to thank you so much for being such amazing listeners tonight. And all of the speakers, you did fabulous, and I can't wait to read your book, and it's so exciting, and woohoo, we're done!
So I just want to close with thanking you all so much for being a part of this book, whether you're an author, an audience member, just celebrating all of us, but also I really hope you all take home something you got from tonight, whether it be a connection, a piece of wisdom, a decision to change your life in some way, a dream, whatever it might be. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for coming out here. And we are going to celebrate and put some music on and throw around some beach balls.